Robots Radio presents
Fresh Tomatoes, the movie podcast.
Hey, I can look at myself naked.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
He likes to create his own sauce.
Well, did you sleep with a man who also slept with Mom and Grandma Catherine?
What? You slept with Dad?
Alright, which one of you sardines called this meat?
Whatever, Major Loser.
Let the party begin!
This can happen again. Okay, we're recording.
Okay, cool. In between the little dance.
In between the little dances, talking about how dreams can happen once more.
This is what millennials hope for, you know, in this hellscape. Okay, now that we got video, my intro is actually going to have like a whole different dimension. So,
okay.
So here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome. Nope, completely fucked it straight away.
Sorry.
I've had it ready for a week, and I just fucked it straight away.
Did I look too thrilled? Was that the problem? Like I was too excited.
No, I thought I had something else, but that wasn't right. What was it? Wow. Oh yeah, that's what that was. That wasn't my intro. That's why I got confused. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Good morrow. We bid thee welcome to Fresh Tomatoes, the movie podcast. The podcast that brings God on thy down and blesses your heart by optimistic reviews of bad movies. That is the wench Simone LaRue.
And that is the Lord Chad Ekowitz.
Woman, do not speak to me with such tones.
I don't know why. I just think being referred to as a wench is like the funniest thing. I don't think it could ever be an insult.
No, that's the thing. Like everyone, like because all of my Dungeons and Dragons campaigns contain bar wenches, people are always just like offended by the term, and I'm like, no, it's a great term. I would love to be a bar wench.
I'd wear it as a badge of honor. Yeah,
damn straight. I mean, it's just, you're in the know about everything. Everyone fancies you. You have your own business. Like, being a wench is great.
Yeah. I'm with you. Wench, make wenches great again.
Should we start the National Wench Society? The NWS.
Just a bunch of, like, angry, smoking waitresses.
Like voluptuous breasted waitresses.
So Hooters.
Yeah, but you know, just less
reinvented
sad.
Hooters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but more empowered.
Yeah, definitely more empowered. It's more about the women, which I know is what all the men say who go to Hooters. They're just like, no, we just love empowering women.
Oh, the chicken's really good. Do you know, so for the people who aren't from Cape Town, there's a strip club in Cape Town. It's very famous, called Mavericks. And Rudy and I knew a guy who like insisted he just went to Mavericks for the steak. He was like, no guys, the steak there is like really good. And it was like, you paid $100 entrance, my guy. Like you can get a good steak for that much fucking anywhere. Stop lying to yourself.
That feels very, you know, a bit.
Yeah,
you're reaching for something that's just not there, my friend.
Go to a strip club and admit that's what you're doing, and you happen to be eating steak at the same time. It's fine.
Exactly. If you just like rephrase that story, it would be amazing, and you would have a great story if you were like, oh, I went to Mavericks the other night and I had the best steak of my life. Yeah. That's cool, because you're just like, all right, I'm a skis ball, I'm admitting it, I'm owning it. But guess what I found while doing my skeezy activity? And that's okay. Yeah. To be fair, I've been to Mavericks once.
I recall.
And it was, you recall that. And it was not a good place. I didn't have the steak, unfortunately.
Probably
so
for
I can't
the best.
vouch for your friend. But yeah, I don't think that's the way you want to eat steak, really.
No. I mean, if you want to go out for a lovely steak dinner, I don't think body glitter should necessarily be involved at any point. But what do I know? I'm a vegetarian. I don't...
And to be fair, in South Africa, like, I will say that South African steaks are like some of the finest. Obviously, I know there is Kobe beef and we can't even like compare. But if you want to just like consistently talk about a good steak, go to South Africa, because no matter where you go, you're gonna get a decent, thick cut, really nice steak.
Unless you go to Spur, like, come on.
And who's going to Spur for the steaks? You're going for the 2-for-1 burgers on a Monday night. Come on.
The bottomless wings.
Yeah, get your shit together, guys. This episode, you guys, is sponsored by South Africa, one of the greatest countries in the world, kinda.
If you don't look too hard.
South Africa, the wench of the world.
It all comes together.
It all comes together. So, Simone, should we tell the people why we're so focused on wenches today?
Please. What you go ahead. I mean, your intro built it up so beautifully.
Oh, thank you. So this week we decided to do period dramas, some of the worst period dramas of all time. So we chose The Black Dahlia, which is a very, very famous unsolved cold case from the 1950s. And then we also chose The Scarlet Letter featuring Demi Moore. And yikes on bikes, Simone, hey? Shit.
I mean, just because it's a period piece does not mean that you have to make the story like super convoluted and long-winded and exhausting. Like, you can make good period pieces.
Yes, exactly. And they don't have to be like really high fancy grammar with like very old school talk, and 90% of it doesn't mean anything. And yeah, the fact that our copy of Scarlet Letter was on 2 discs just kind of goes to show you, yeah, that's rough.
It is exclusively for high school classrooms, and even then, teachers seem to avoid it.
As rightly they should. So, Simone, let's decide who gets to go first today. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Merlot.
Ooh.
It is delicious. I'm still so excited every time I take a sip of wine, so I guess I can thank lockdown for that.
Since we're back on video, do you want to give your little Merlot dance that you did before we started the podcast?
It's just like a happy little shoulder wiggle. You bring some head in, and then you take another sip of Merlot.
And that's perfect. I think it's the dream. That's what you want from your little. You know what? Dancing can be overrated if you go too big. It just becomes too much.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for an audio medium, I don't want to move around too much. So it's all shoulders.
See, that's the professionalism that you get when you come to our podcast, is tiny bits of dancing over wine.
What are you drinking?
Today, I've gone back to a true and time-tested method of canned alcoholic beverages, and I got a mojito this time.
Ooh!
And you know what? It's actually quite nice. A pre-mixed canned mojito is actually kind of a win. You put a little bit of ice in, get it really nice and frosty cold. It's very, very nice.
Very summery.
But yes, only very summery, which is kind of perfect for English summer, which it currently is since it's raining during the summer month.
What a beautiful country.
Oh, gotta love it. You know, everything about it is just perfect. Not a problem. No issues with our country whatsoever. We can just move on from that. My drink is 5%. What's yours, Simone?
14.
Oh shit. Okay, so we can Dahlia it up.
Let's Dahlia it up. I actually wrote a synopsis this week because even as I watched the movie, I was very confused by what was happening.
Right? Like we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of thoughts.
So guys, it's a long synopsis. The story follows Dwight Bucky Bleichert, played by Josh Hartnett, and his partner Lee Blanchard, played by Aaron Eckhart. The two become friends and partners in detective work following a highly publicized boxing match between the two. Bucky then meets Kay, played by Scarlett Johansson. She lives with Lee, but doesn't appear to be in a romantic relationship with him. Bucky finds out later that Kay and Lee met when Lee helped arrest Kay's abusive boyfriend, gangster Bobby DeWitt. Then the Black Dahlia murder occurs. Aspiring actress Elizabeth Short, played by Mia Kirshner here, is found horribly dismembered in a field. While Bucky initially has other priorities, both men eventually become obsessed with solving the case. Their investigation takes them to the shady underbelly of Hollywood, and they learn that Elizabeth was involved in the lesbian community and did lesbian pornography when she was in a desperate situation. While investigating a lesbian nightclub, Bucky meets Madeline Linscott, played by Hilary Swank, a very wealthy woman who enjoys slumming it in dodgy bars and dressing up as the Black Dahlia. She also bears a striking resemblance to the Black Dahlia, so we're told. She tells Bucky that she was very close with Elizabeth, but asks that her name be kept out of the papers. She introduces him to her eccentric, dysfunctional family. The two have sex. At the same time, Lee gets a tip that Bobby DeWitt, freshly released from prison, is going to be in a specific location. Bucky, fearing that Lee might do something reckless, follows him there. He witnesses Lee's fight and subsequent death, caused in part by an unidentified stranger.
Ooh.
Ooh. Sorry. Scrolling, because that's how long it is. Back at Kay's house, Bucky learns that Kay and Lee had actually stolen most of DeWitt's money, and the reason Lee left that night was to kill DeWitt so he wouldn't come after it. Following an unfortunate visit to Madeline again, Bucky starts putting the pieces together and realizes that Madeline's family was much more involved with Elizabeth than they had let on. When Bucky confronts the family, it's revealed that Madeline's mother, Ramona, played by Fiona Shaw, killed Elizabeth because she looked so much like Madeline. Before she can be taken for further questioning, she kills herself. A few days later, Bucky also realizes that he had missed something. He talks to Madeline's sister and realizes that Lee had known about the family's involvement in the Black Dahlia case and blackmailed them. It was Madeline who slit Lee's throat during his fight with Bobby. Bucky confronts Madeline, she confesses, and he kills her. He then returns to Kay. The end.
Way, very, very nicely done. Sort of wrapped it all up in a movie that just couldn't do it itself.
Just
so what is...
Stop.
It wouldn't end. So what is your cliffhanger?
Oh, it's going to be this one. Just the most frustrating fucking character in the whole thing, Madeline. When she's like, oh, I don't think you want to kill me. I think you want to fuck me. And you're just like, shut up.
I cannot. Like, she is such a frustrating character. It's unbelievable.
And so actually completely unnecessary to the whole story. Like, she's just like this like slutty girl who like wants to sleep with a cop and likes the danger of it. And then they keep emphasizing how much she looks like Elizabeth Short. But the actress that they cast, who does look like the genuine Elizabeth Short, and she did an amazing job. Nothing like Hilary Swank. In no way.
It's bonkers.
So
like,
they keep being like,
crazy.
Oh, the resemblance is uncanny. Oh, wow, she looks so much like her. And it's like, she looks absolutely nothing like her.
It's like, I think by pointing it out more, they were trying to make you believe that she did. But also by pointing out more, you're just like, no. It's like if I went, oh, Simone, you look so much like Peter Jackson. It's unbelievable. Doesn't she look like Peter Jackson, everyone? Doesn't she look like Peter Jackson? Hey, Peter Jackson. Oh, sorry, Simone, it's you. It's not Peter Jackson,
exactly.
Even though you look ridiculously like Peter Jackson. Obviously you don't. For anyone who's actually seen you, it's just the name that came to my head. So it's because I watched Lord of the Rings last night, and then I'm reading Lord of the Rings currently. So
you're in that space.
I'm in that space. But yeah, that was unbelievable. But let's talk about the girl who played the Black Dahlia, because she was stunning and just heartbreaking, right?
Yeah, she was incredible. I think she was honestly the best part about this whole movie. And apparently she was just working on set. She was just supposed to feed the lines to the main actress. And she did like such an amazing job, and the director was so taken with her, and obviously the resemblance was so like uncanny that she was eventually cast in the role. And she was just, I mean, I think like we'll go into it, but I think this movie is pretty disrespectful of the actual Elizabeth Short, who already had such a rough go of things from the media following the murder. Like it's so weird and cruel that like this is the plot line they chose.
Yeah, it's really shitty. And it's funny that this is also, last week was our book adaptation week, and yet this week is actually also a book adaptation week, because this movie was based on the book, The Black Dahlia.
Yes.
But they decided to take like a whole different thing and really focus on the cops instead of the actual murder. So do you want to talk us through, because this is like one of your quote-unquote favorite murders. So do you want to just talk us through the Black Dahlia murder?
Yeah, I'm not going to do any dates or anything. I don't have anything in front of me. This is just like purely off the top of my head. So Elizabeth Short, people say she was an aspiring actress, and apparently she did maybe audition for stuff, but that was never really proven. She basically just moved to California initially because she had lung problems, and later on to be with her estranged father, who she had a falling out with. That monologue in the movie that she had about falling in love with a pilot who died later on in India, that was actually true. That's the thing that really happened to her. And no one really knows what happened to her that night or where she went, but
Mhm.
the next morning she was found obviously horribly dead. I'm not going to go into the details, but it was pretty horrific.
No. Yeah.
And what followed was this massive media frenzy where people, you know, obviously it was such a sensational case and she was so beautiful and seemed so glamorous in hindsight. Because I went down a little Wikipedia rabbit hole today. And apparently, like, a newspaper called her mother. They tracked down her mother wherever she was, I think in Massachusetts or something. And they said, oh, your daughter's won a pageant. And then they got all this information about Elizabeth out of the mom and then told her, no, your daughter got murdered. That's why we wanted this information. So she had to find out from these assholes that her daughter was like one of the most sensational murders in LA history. And then they like offered to pay for her ticket down to testify for the police, but she didn't testify for the police. The newspapers actually kept her very separate from the police so that they wouldn't get scooped.
Wow.
And it was just horrible. And then this poor girl was just dragged through the mud. Like, obviously she didn't have a great life. She was just like this poor girl trying to get by on her looks in LA and like live her life. So people like accused her of all kinds of stuff. And it was just really horrible. They never officially caught the murderer, but it's pretty widely accepted now that it was George Hodel, who was a physician. There's a really amazing podcast if you want to know more about George Hodel and the Hodel family. It's called The Root of Evil. Maybe we can link to it below.
We'll link it. We'll link to it.
And it is incredible. It's amazing. It's actually done by George's great granddaughters.
Wow. Okay.
And it's half about the Dahlia murder and why they think George Hodel did it. And it's also just like such a crazy story involving like incest and S&M and the surrealism art movement.
Wow.
And it's also about the impact that all of this had on their family and like how much their family is hurting like 4 generations down. It's really interesting. So that's the Black Dahlia in a nutshell. Shit. And I imagine that the family, Madeline's family in the movie was based off of the Hodels, and they just didn't want to use names.
Yeah, I was about to say, because obviously the Hodel family is not mentioned at all in this movie, and they blame it on the crazy mother. And I was just like, because as far as I knew, because I didn't know as much about the cases as you did and everything, and obviously it was just like, in from my knowledge, it was just like a cold case, without any sort of major suspects. So when it went into this whole conjecture point about the mother doing it, I was like, well, this feels really icky and disingenuous. Like, it felt very poo-poo towards from about the middle in. It felt very gross.
Well, especially to cast like the main guy in this family, the dad or whatever, as like this guy just surrounded by conniving women. You know, his daughter is this crazy slut sleeping with all these cops, and the wife is this alcoholic who flew into a murderous rage and cheated on him. Like, no, like George Hodel is the bad guy. He like, trigger warning, I guess, but he sexually assaulted his daughter multiple times. Like, it was really horrible. There was a whole court case and everything. So like, to obscure it like that is just like so disrespectful to like his victims.
Yeah.
And then on top of the fact that basically the whole movie actually had very little to do with the Black Dahlia. It was like kind of about it, but really it was revolving around this like pretty annoying wet blanket of a cop's love life and confusion over like his dirty cop partner and love interest.
It was a really weird love triangle, and it's like, it's so strange why you would take this really cool, well, not cool, but like this really interesting true crime thing, and then decide to make it about the cops and like their weird love triangle. It was sort of like the Lone Ranger, which we did a couple of weeks ago, where it's just like, oh, I really love my partner's girl, but what is the morality of this? Oh, well, he's dead and he was a creep, so I'm gonna definitely have sex with her now. And it's just like
this is, it feels like the author maybe came up with this fun like noir detective plot and realized no one would read it, so then he found a way to weave the Black Dahlia murder like into it in a very fan fiction-y kind of way.
Yeah. It was very misplaced. Like, even and it's really funny, and it's kind of ironic in that fact that it's called the Black Dahlia. The best character in it was the girl who played the Black Dahlia, and she only had like 4 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
And it was just like a really weird mishmash of things, but yeah, like, so weird. Also, just before we move on to like the nice things and stuff, can we talk about that weird ass fucking dildo that was part of their lesbian thing?
That whole scene,
that scared the shit out of me.
And it was so like uncomfortable and unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, all they really needed to show it for was to show like her hand on the one bedpost like getting punctured. And it's really like, that whole thing was so salacious and gross. Elizabeth Short actually was apparently homophobic, so she would never have done stuff like that. And like the fact that they added it in afterwards for like this weird erotic twist on the story is so gross and like, again, unnecessary. He could have found Madeline at any bar. Why did it have to be a lesbian bar? Why did the lesbian community have to be involved in this horrible story at all? Why did Elizabeth have to do pornography? It actually didn't contribute much to the plot at all.
No, it did absolutely nothing but to add like the sexy part of the noir, even though there was so much sex everywhere else.
And then on top of that, like, when she was filming the pornography, they make it very clear that she's not enjoying it and she's having a horrible time. So it basically looks like rape.
Watch. Yeah, it's so uncomfortable to watch.
Like, so not only have they like made her involved in pornography, but they've taken away her agency in it so that she essentially looks like this horrible stuff is just happening to her. And like, it's like, okay, but if you're gonna put her in like a weird lesbian, could she enjoy it? Like, could she be taking charge of her sexuality? Like, the whole thing was just so gross and unnecessary.
Yeah, it really, like, it just screamed of sort of like the sort of the male gaze over this whole thing of like this damsel in distress and all women are evil. They're either women in distress or they're evil. Like, there's no just powerful women for their own purposes. And it's just it was icky. So apart from the fact that we loved the lady who played Elizabeth Short, what else can you like take away from this movie that you enjoyed?
I thought that the relationship with Lee and Bucky and Kay was very interesting. I thought it was kind of progressive. Like, here's this dude who just like helped out this woman who was essentially it's kind of implied that she was kind of a sex worker who was dating her pimp. And like the fact that he helped her out and then had this like really progressive relationship with her where he was like, I'm just going to pay for you to get an education and look after you. I don't expect anything from you. Maybe there was no chemistry. Maybe he was gay.
That would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. Or maybe he was asexual, you know, like, or maybe he just wasn't attracted to Kay and he was like, I don't need to be attracted to you to want to help you.
Yeah.
It could be any of those things, which they don't explore, which is fine. And then I think I really like Josh Hartnett, actually. He has a very sincere face and he's very handsome in a blocky way.
Yeah, he's like a country bumpkin. He's the guy you can, like, when you go down to Christmas Town and he's just like aggressive to start with and he's just like, hey, get out of my way. Yeah, he's in flannel. It's like, get out of my way, you city rube. And then he turns out to be like the handsome one.
Yeah, he's got a heart of gold and a tragic backstory.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly Josh Hartnett's vibe.
Yeah.
And I like Aaron Eckhart. I think he did a really good job as like the cop obsessed with a mission who's conflicted because he's also a dirty cop. But he stole from a criminal. So is it really stealing? Like, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. It's a lot of weird dimensions to throw into one character. Like, not saying it's a bad thing, but like it was just like,
it was a lot.
This is a lot to deal with.
The whole movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
The whole movie was so much because it's basically two different plots that they kind of shoved together at the end. Like, it's half the investigation of the Black Dahlia murder and then half this other like random personal story.
Do you think they were just like, they reached the end of the film and they finished and they were like, and some like intern came up to them and was like, sorry, I just wanted to point out that this movie is called The Black Dahlia, and they're like, yeah, so, and they're like, should we not include some Black Dahlia stuff in it? And they were like, shit.
Oh, God
The one
damn
thing we
it.
didn't do.
You, line girl, get on the camera.
That is exactly what happened.
Apparently, because I was reading the trivia, apparently the director's cut is actually a lot better. I don't know if it's available, like if it's out there,
Okay.
but it like sort of showed because like their whole relationship with the Black Dahlia case was very superficial in the movie. Like they're like, yeah, I want to solve it, and then Lee's just going crazy. And apparently it dedicated a lot more time showing the both of them getting more and more involved and obsessed with this case, which I think would have helped the pacing quite a lot.
So much. Because
it sort of starts off where like initially Josh Hartnett's character doesn't even want the case. He wants to go after like some other dude who like beats up seniors and stuff. And he's like, listen, I think we should give this case up, like give it to someone else. Like, I don't know what cop in their right fucking mind would give that case up, but okay. And Lee's like, no, like, I don't think we should go after your guy. I think we should do this. And like, that's a bit of a struggle. And then like, literally like 2 scenes later, Josh Hartnett's like fucking neck deep in it.
Let's do this.
He's having sex with a woman who supposedly looks like the Black Dahlia.
She looks like the Black Dahlia, Simone. She's like the Black Dahlia. Simone, the Black Dahlia and her, there's no difference. If you put them next to each other, you wouldn't be able to tell them one from the other. You would stand there and go, wait, hold on.
Her round face, Hilary Swank's square face. It's uncanny. Hilary Swank's brown eyes, her eerily blue eyes.
I mean, you're saying these words to me, and you're just describing 2 of the exact same people. I don't understand what's happening.
What did you like?
Yeah,
about
like
the movie?
I think, you know, Aaron Eckhart is excellent. He's a great actor, especially when he goes like crazy like that. That was really fun. Scarlett Johansson was all right in this. You know, she was perfectly fine. I do like you said, like their progressive tryst in the beginning where they're just like 3 pals hanging out together and just like shooting the shit. Like that was a really fun sort of aspect of their relationship. You know, and yeah, that was just really fun in that respect. And then it kind of just and then all the scenes with the Black Dahlia itself was just beautiful and haunting. And like damn.
Honestly, if you can just YouTube like the quote unquote screen tests that she did or that they showed throughout the movie, like watch those. Like it is beautiful and sad, and the actress just kills it. I really think she should be in like more things because she's been in a lot because I looked her up.
Oh really? Okay.
Hang on, let me find her again. Okay, so just for those who forgot, her name is Mia Kirshner. She was in Bloodline. She was in Star Trek Discovery quite a lot, playing Amanda Grayson. She's in a movie called Reluctant Witness, Bloodline, Defiance, Lost Girl. I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's ace. Okay, that's very, very cool.
She was in the L Word for 5 years.
Ooh, good. Excellent. Your video has gone off.
Oh, has it? Why?
And she's back. There we go. That's cool. Yeah, I think she's a great actress, and she like it's great that she's doing other stuff and things. And you know, she is stunningly beautiful and
so pretty.
Just, amazing. Amazing. So I gotta ask, what's the scene that could have saved it if there is a single scene?
It sounds horrible, but I wish they'd just taken all the Black Dahlia stuff out.
Oh wow.
Like, stop pretending that this movie is about the Black Dahlia. It is not. It is about some random cop, and you just wanted to do like LA in the 40s, like old Hollywood glamour, all the dirty underbelly and gangs and stuff. Just like fucking lean into it, you know? Pull a Sin City, go for it. Like expand the story. You had 3 really interesting characters. You didn't have to bring fucking Hilary Swank into it. You didn't have to pretend that this whole thing was about the Black Dahlia murder. You could have had that like way in the background, called the movie something else, and like gotten on with it.
Exactly. Like, it was such a B plot for the movie to be called Black Dahlia and that be such a B plot. It makes no sense when this is, if you don't focus on that, like, this is actually a really cool noir movie if you're into that kind of movie, because it's about like gangsters and, like we said already, dirty cops being good cops being dirty cops. You don't need the Black Dahlia. And I think that also feeds into sort of my scene that could have saved it, because I would have flipped it completely around and said, only do Black Dahlia stuff. So get rid of all this nonsense about them and just actually focus on that. Sort of like the Zodiac movie, where in the same vein, you don't know who the murderer is. And it's basically just Robert Graysmith just trying to find this murderer in sexy Jake Gyllenhaal garb. And but like, obviously don't have Jake Gyllenhaal in this one, although maybe do.
Maybe do.
But actually focus on the Black Dahlia. So get rid of all the noir shit and just focus on her. So almost a complete 180 to yours.
Just basically pick a plot and stick to it. The only reason I wanted the Black Dahlia excluded from this was just because it was like such a weird, disrespectful portrayal of that was my thing. I was like, it was just so icky.
It's so disrespectful. I mean, you probably saw this as well when you were looking up the trivia, but when the film bombed in the US, when it came to the UK, they didn't do any screenings for UK critics. So it just like went straight to market because they just couldn't handle more rejection and more critics just slating this film. And like, I kind of don't blame them. I can see why they did that, but yowza.
Yikes.
Shit. Yeah. Well, would you watch it again? That is always the question to end these segments.
I this was not the first time that I saw this movie, so I was like,
really?
Yeah, I watched it ages ago. I think like just after it came out, so I was too young. And, I didn't really know much about the Black Dahlia murder. So I think like the true crime part of me was really intrigued by it and thought maybe it was a more true to life portrayal than it actually was. So I think I really liked it, and I was fascinated like from that aspect because I wanted to know more about the murder. But on second watch, like if you're interested, like if you like true crime and that stuff you're into, like there are much better series now about the Black Dahlia. There's one called I Am the Night. That's a lot more faithful to the actual story.
Cool.
This is just like I said, like it's not really a good noir detective thing. It's not really a good true crime thing. Like it tried to be both and it ended up being neither. So like don't waste your time.
No, it's not worth it. Like, completely agree. Wouldn't watch this ever again. Like, I may, if I'm feeling like really sad, go look up the YouTube clips of the Black Dahlia actress in her screen test, because those were the only like sort of really intense and pertinent parts of this film. But the actual film itself, you can leave it. Really, you don't need to watch it. So that's a big no from both of us. And thank you for bringing it to our attention, though. Thank you for resurfacing this film.
Now we've done it. We got to have our little true crime moment in the sun. Exactly,
like every other podcast.
Would you say it's saturated? I don't know.
It's not like the two are synonymous.
It's not like we both shamelessly feed the demand for true crime podcasts as well, you and I.
I think it would have been really funny if, 2 years when you came to me with the idea for doing a podcast and you were like, we should do a podcast and we should do a true crime podcast. I would have like, I mean, we're already, our movie podcast is already pretty saturated.
Yeah.
But, only second, I would say, to true crime podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, two white millennials talking about true crime. How original.
Whoa,
as opposed to two white
guys?
millennials talking about movies. I know.
Yes. Guys,
before anyone says anything.
Come on. Stop this nonsense. Well, thank you, Simone. Thank you very much for that. All right, shall I take you on a magical religious journey through pious sainthood?
I wish you would.
Oh, I'm very excited for this. And I say that with full sarcasm. So, the Scarlet Letter is set in the 1600s. Hester Prynne, played by Demi Moore, travels to the New World from England on orders from her husband, played by Robert Duvall, who will follow behind her in a few months. On arriving in Massachusetts, Hester already starts to challenge the establishment, questioning the church elders, wearing less than conservative clothes, and choosing to live by herself in a delightful little cottage. Though most of the religious men of the town dislike her for her progressive ways, she seems to get along with quite a few of the more liberal women of the town. She is still a God-fearing woman, so when the mayor calls on her to go to church, she rushes off immediately. Unfortunately, her horse gets stuck in some mud, but out of nowhere, a handsome man comes to save her. He does not introduce himself, but when Hester arrives at church, she sees that the man who helped her is actually the Reverend named Arthur Dinsdale, played by Gary Oldman. She is impassioned by his sermon, and they begin to spend more and more time together. Eventually, they can no longer deny that they have feelings for each other, but with Hester being married and Arthur being a reverend, their love is forbidden. That is, until Hester and Arthur find out that Hester's husband has been killed. On arriving in Massachusetts, the Native Americans attacked his ship and killed him. So Arthur and Hester talk for about 5 seconds about how they should wait a respectful amount of time before becoming a couple, then they immediately proceed to Bonetown. Hester becomes pregnant and refuses to tell the town leaders who impregnated her. Since she did not wait the proper amount of time before hooking up with someone new, she is charged with fornication and adultery and locked up. She has the baby in prison and then is released. All the while, she refuses to tell anyone who the father is. Once released, the town leaders agree that she should still bear the shame, and so they require her to wear a large red letter A on all of her clothing. She is also followed around by a drummer so as to draw attention to her shame. She still refuses to tell anyone who the father is. Surprise, surprise, Hester's husband isn't actually dead. He was captured by the Native Americans, but he was too crazy, so they sent him back to the white people to deal with. He finds Hester and tries to get her to tell him who the father was. She still refuses. He says that he will find out by disguising himself as someone other than her husband, and if she tells anyone, he will kill her. After many a shenanigan, Hester's husband finds out who it was and goes to kill Arthur. Fortunately, he kills the wrong person and in his guilt hangs himself. At the end of the film, Arthur reveals to everyone that he is the father in order to save Hester from being hanged. The town decides to hang him instead, but as the bucket is about to be kicked from under him, the Native Americans come to the rescue, saving Arthur and Hester's lives. They then sail off into the sunset. The end.
What is your cliffhanger?
Okay, so it has to be this one. And it's the scene where fucking Gary Oldman is standing on the hanging promenade, and he's just like, the scaffolding, the hanging scaffolding, and he's like, oh, you should tell the elders who who impregnated you, and if you don't, you're gonna go to hell. And it's just the most infuriating, confusing scene of all time, and I hate it.
So I because I didn't want to be an idiot, and I was like, okay, let me see like what happens in the book versus what happens in the movie. I don't know if you read The Scarlet Letter.
Yes, I read it for university. Yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know and who are ignorant like me, this movie's essentially kind of a loose fan fiction of The Scarlet Letter.
Do you know what's my favorite bit about that? Before you tell everyone the synopsis, is that at the beginning of the film it says, I think it says, loosely adapted from the book. And I laughed so hard at that because I was like, oh, okay, they know how much they strayed.
So the book actually starts at Hester Prynne's trial. And then you don't actually know who the father is for like most of the book, and it's revealed like at the end. Yeah. So like that's why I think that scene that like was your cliffhanger is supposed to be very tense, because like in the book they didn't the reader didn't know that he was the one who fathered the child.
And like from what I remember from the book, because it was so long ago, like he's not a good guy. The guy who impregnates her is not a good guy at all. Like he raped her, didn't he? Like essentially.
No. It's never really like they don't go into it, but I think it's implied it was consensual. I just think in the book they don't try to imply that it's like true love or anything like that. Like it could have just been like a hot mistake one night kind of vibe. But she's like a proud woman and she doesn't necessarily want to see the Reverend hanged. So like I feel like, well, the reviews that I read said that like that kind of covered her motivations more or made the book make more sense, where like she's like, oh, I won't tell, and you're like, why though, bitch? Like this dude has impregnated you and left you out to hang. And at least in the movie you're kind of like, oh, I mean, look, Gary Oldman's pretty hot. Like, this is a
Can we just
sexy
say-
Gary Oldman.
Young Gary Oldman is a looker.
Oh,
Holy crap.
my God.
Steamy McDreamy. I was surprised when he showed up. I was like, excuse me, Mr. Gary Young Man. Who are you?
How dare you?
I mean, I would keep his secret. If he impregnated me, I wouldn't tell no one.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
So this like you said, it's very liberally taken from the novel. Demi Moore said that she didn't mind that it was so liberally devoid from the novel because, in her words, no one's read the book, which is kind of the most upsetting thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's literally taught in schools.
Yeah, and she's just like, yeah, no one's read that really famous book by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Like,
An American
no one's read
classic.
it. Yeah. What is it called? The Ruby Letter? I'm confused.
Oh, Demi.
Oh, Demi. What really annoyed me more than 90% of this movie was the fact that they still got it wrong, where one person in the film says they went out and she was hung. When you're killed by the neck, you're hanged. And it is a personal pet peeve of mine.
Yes, me
when
too.
people say hung instead of hanged. It really bugs me, and they did it in this period drama, and it was very upsetting.
Yeah, no, I also did not enjoy that. Is like all the Native American stuff in the book?
I don't think so. I don't remember,
like,
to be honest, but
I felt unnecessarily brought the Native American community in for no real reason.
they were like a really helpful plot device, but apart
Yeah.
from that, it was just kind of like, okay, this is awful, and this is all horrible.
It was relatively respectful, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it kind of showed the realities of what it was kind of like. It kind of did play them, the Native Americans, as the bad guys. Although it was genuinely hilarious that Robert Duvall was too crazy, so they sent him back to the white people. That was funny as shit.
That was great.
I love that. That was lovely.
And
Robert
they had
Duvall's-
actual Native American actors, it looked like. Which,
yeah,
you know,
so that's they
something.
passed what we shall now lovingly call the Johnny Depp test. Which was good. I loved Robert Duvall in this, strangely enough. Like,
oh, yeah.
dude is crazy in
Good
this.
bad
Dude
guy.
does really well. Yeah, very, very good bad guy. What did we think of Demi's performance?
Fine. You know, I think I don't know. I think it was actually really good casting. She does have this face that's like really pretty, but also like she looks like she's ready to fight you, you know?
Yeah.
Like even
Yeah.
when she's being like, "Oh no, I don't drink," or "Oh, of course I'll come to church." You're like, "Bitch, why are you lying?"
That sort of like resting bitch
Yeah.
face where she's actually really nice, but you
Yeah,
just actually have to
exactly.
get past that. Yeah. No, she was very cool. Yeah, like there was so many long pauses in this movie that did not need to be there. That was just exhausting. Like all the bath stuff, like that was weird. That sex scene where then the slave goes and has a bath as well while they're having sex in the barn. It was
I was like, maybe there's some
questionable.
symbolism here that I'm not getting, but I don't really understand.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. I think this movie would have been better if it was shorter. Like 2 hours of film was way too much.
Oh
for
my
this.
God.
Oh man.
And if you're gonna make it a fan fiction, like make it steamier. Like I know they already made it steamier by like showing their whole romance and you know their love making in the grain silo.
that scene in the grain silo, because at first they're not having sex on the grain itself, and then they move over for that wonderful shot where like their hands are buried in the grain.
Yeah, which is amazing. But
it's great artistic impressionism, but like shit.
Two very beautiful people having forbidden love sex by all means. But then like keep that level. Like I understand it's about Puritan blah 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 blah. But you're already going there. Like
exactly.
have him sneak into a prison cell, you know what I mean?
Oh, that is steamy, especially when it's Gary Oldman being like super fine.
So
like...
hot. Do you know what? I was thinking about Gary Oldman. Because when they cast him as Sirius Black, like fucking years and years ago, I was very young. So I was like super disappointed. I was like, why'd they cast this old dude as Sirius Black, who's like objectively kind of a hot character? And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh no, he is hot as Sirius Black.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, you could see it. Do you know what actually would be weird? Well, not weird, sorry, like kind of steamy and kind of hot, and like this is post the Battle of Hogwarts. I want to make that explicitly clear to all of our listeners. Fan fiction of Hermione and Sirius Black, like I can see it.
Can you? I don't think they spoke much, did they?
But that's why they like just, you know, there was just this sort of like, well, you're the smartest you're the smartest witch of your generation, and I'm very, very tall and handsome, and it's just like I can see that.
I mean, he did make friends with her cat first, so
yeah, he did. Yeah, he
disgusting
did.
joke.
Look, it was subtle, so that's why it was good. But like, I don't know why, but like as you said that, I was just like,
that's
actually,
just your little
Hermione and
your little headcanon.
I will get on it immediately. Fan fiction, since J.K. Rowling no longer should own the IP.
No.
She should be banned from all of this nonsense.
Guys.
Don't Rowling, guys. That's all we can say. Never, ever Rowling.
Like, don't be a turf.
No one needs you. No one needs that. But yes, that scene was hilarious. I can almost, like, you know, you love to do the scenes that weren't shot, where it's just like they're having sex on the bags of grain, and then Demi's like, no, let's move over there, and Gary Oldman's like, but why? And she's like, the aesthetic, and then they move over to the open grain.
Do you think she was like, have you ever like put your whole hand into grain and felt how satisfying it is?
Oh, Puritan lovemaking. What a dream.
For the senses.
Yeah. I do love that they were just like, he's like, oh, how long? She was like, how long do I have to wait before we can be partners? And he's like, 7 years. And essentially she's just like, 7 years?
Fuck it.
Jesus. That, I think those 5 minutes were the best part of the movie by far.
Man. I mean, look, the movie, you can probably give it a miss. It's not really a faithful adaptation. Like, it's not going to get you points in your English class. It's maybe worth watching the first half, and then the second half is
Yeah, it kind of, that's the thing, right? Like, after the first half, it kind of just falls apart.
She's just, like, full of quiet dignity, and you're like, we get it, you're better than everyone.
Yeah, like, religion doesn't have to mean you're good, and all that nonsense, and yeah. Yeah, it's exhausting, and I guess, like, when this movie came out in 96, like, this was still, like, a new concept, but was it, though? No. Is it, though? What's great, like, what really, I think, failed from like, the book to movie adaptation of this is the fact, like, in the book, she gets the red A, and, like, within, like, a few months, the whole of the society loves her again. Yeah. Like, it's crazy, because they're just like, oh, she's actually, like, a really good person. Yeah. And even though she did this one thing that was kind of bad, like, she's actually pretty tight, and, like, everyone loves her, and it drives the leaders crazy. Yeah. Because everyone's like, well, yeah, she adulted, but she also gives to charity and helps her friends and does nice things for people. And, like, that's completely lost in the book, because in the movie, because everyone hates her. Yeah,
which is wild, because that's, like, just how the world is. Like, obviously it depends on what you do. Like, some shit stays with you forever, and it should. But like, for the most part, society actually doesn't care that much about, like, your smaller transgressions. Like, as long as you're, like, useful and helping people and kind and charming and beautiful, that definitely helps. People forget a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Trudeau did blackface, and he's still Prime Minister of Canada. Like,
I mean, Trump sexually assaulted women, and
I mean, should we bring up the Trump list? Should we bring up the Trump list?
Joe Biden's been accused of sexual harassment, and he's still might be the next president. So the world's horrible.
The world is horrible, guys. That's what you can take away from the Scarlet Letter, is that the world is a horrible, horrible place.
And as long as you're charming and people think you're useful, they'll forgive a lot.
Chris Brown, he just came to mind as well. I think the only person, I think where it stops, like the line that clearly is drawn is pedophilia, because R. Kelly, that guy from Last Prophets,
I mean,
Jeffrey
it took
Epstein,
a long time for R. Kelly to get taken down.
Oh yeah. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
But we got him, and the guy from Lost Prophets, he very much quickly fell off the radar, which was great news.
Good, yeah. Epstein also took a long time. All the people around Epstein are still like walking around.
Yeah. Oh, the world.
Anyway,
this is the darkest timeline. Darkest
timeline.
So what scene could have saved it for you?
I honestly can't really think of one. Like I said, maybe it would have been nice to have it a little steamier. I think that's just the perv in me, though. I don't think that would have actually made the movie any better. It would have made it more entertaining, but not better.
Yeah. Which is, I think, what you kind of need in a period drama sometimes is just like a little bit of, make it exciting, make it interesting.
Also, if Gary Oldman's going to be so pathetic the whole second half of the movie, where he's like, I'm so distraught by guilt. And it's like, and yet you are not confessing, you dick.
It's awful.
He's like racked by guilt, and you're like, get over it. Like, I'd rather him also be racked by a little bit of lust. And he's like, I've sinned already. And then, like, sexy time, or like a nice shirtless Oldman,
Yeah, because we get that one scene with shirtless Oldman, and that was it. I completely agree, actually. Like, because in that second half, he is so boring, and he could just confess at any point. Like, I know he's like, "Oh, you should tell them," but he could also do
and it's also like this weird, like they try to make it like the feminist thing where he's like respecting her autonomy and like her personal struggle against the system.
Pick a time.
And it's like, okay, dude, you keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, there's a time and a place, and you're picking the wrong one.
By letting her get slut-shamed for years.
I'm doing my part. I stand with her. Like, yeah.
Hashtag time's up.
Yeah, and that whole bit, like, towards the end where he, like, full on rages at her, and he's like, oh, you're the slag, and I did nothing wrong. You perverted me with your perversion. And it's like, oh,
wow.
Okay. All right, dude. That's fine. Oh yeah, that was aggressive. Yeah, I think there's no scene that could have saved it. Really, like, maybe if they had just been like really cool, like in the book, like she gets the A and everyone's just kind of like really cool with her anyway, and like it just goes to show how lame it is, and it's sort of like that really old school thing of like the cool kids trying to like be jerks to the nerds, but everyone loves the nerds anyway, kind of thing. But with Demi Moore being hot. That may have saved it a little bit, but who knows? Who knows? 2 hours long.
My God.
Yeah. So I think you've said it already, but would you watch it again?
No. My actual favorite portrayal of Puritan society is The Witch. Which
I did not enjoy that movie.
A bomb movie. It's really cool. I liked it a lot. It's about the subtext.
Oh, I just couldn't. Like, I couldn't get, like, a goat, okay. Devil goat, great. Ace. But you know what? Each to their own. Some people like Hereditary. They're wrong, but some people like Hereditary.
You can like aspects of Hereditary without... I mean, we've had this discussion many times before, but anytime you have to, like, Google a movie to be like, what the fuck did I just see? Like... Yeah. It's not ideal.
It's not ideal. Yeah, the first 30 minutes of Hereditary are great.
Amazing. Most of it. It's just towards the end that you're like, wait.
Yeah. But why? But why is all of this? Well, thank you very much, and God bless you, Simone. Thank
you. I
know you're currently living in sin.
Yes, that is true.
It's fine. I will send you a giant letter A, red letter A, to wear on all your apparel.
The lady staying next door keeps referring to Rudy as my husband, and I just haven't had the heart to, or will, to correct her.
Do you think she'll just stand there and just be like, shame?
Well, part of me wants to be like, no, he's my brother. But
gross.
Pull a white stripes.
And just like kiss him and hold his hand and be like,
Yeah.
no, this is my brother.
We're close.
Don't you know it's the #1 search thing on Pornhub?
Okay, so well done, Chad.
Cool. I don't know if congratulations and well done should be for this film.
For covering this movie, I mean.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. So Simone, what is your optimistic thing for this week?
Oh, these are getting harder.
Right?
Because
Shit.
the world is getting dark. I mean, the world's always been dark. I think we're just noticing more and more now, which is good. I guess let's make that my optimistic thing. I think a lot more people, as always with these kinds of, with times like this where there are protests, both for like Black Lives Matter and then all the stuff recently going on with trans people getting their rights taken away during Pride Month, and J.K. Rowling. And I think whenever this happens, people do become more aware of issues that these communities face that they weren't aware of before. And I know like it takes a lot of learning and also unlearning.
Yeah.
I think we can both speak to that really personally.
Hugely so. Yeah. Without a doubt.
But I think it's really impressive. Like a lot of people, or at least that I know, are out there doing the work, reading what activists have to say, like making space for those voices, amplifying those voices. A lot of people who I thought didn't even really care about these issues are suddenly so vocal about them, which is good to know that like that's
Hugely
something maybe they cared about all along. I think there are more people that care than we think, and there are more people who are willing to care than we think. And I think
it's nice to see the amount of allies.
I kind of want to remind people that like, you know, there's no such thing as someone who's like a perfect ally or a perfect supporter right off the bat. I think you and I were both pretty ignorant.
Huge,
for
like
a long time.
throughout university and everything. I think it was only sort of towards the end of university that we like, well, personally, I don't know for you, but like I started to become more alive and aware of all these situations and how horrible it is for everyone. Yeah.
And I'm still learning about misconceptions that I have or misunderstandings that I have. But like just because you don't feel like you're a perfect ally now, or you feel like there are parts that you don't agree with, doesn't mean that you can't support that community as best as you can. And it doesn't mean you can't learn and grow. And just because you were ignorant before, or you said things that you're ashamed of before, doesn't mean you can't be a supporter now.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I think it's becoming more sort of prevalent in our society now that, you know, we're I think for the longest time we've been taught that being wrong is like the worst thing you can be, and like no matter what, you have to double down, triple down on how wrong you were, just because, you know, you cannot be wrong about anything. And so a lot of people are becoming really, really uncomfortable with the fact that, you know, they are being told they're wrong and being told how to be and how to act and everything. And it is very uncomfortable. No one likes to be wrong and no one likes to be told they're wrong. But it's very much that acceptance of knowing that you're wrong and dealing with it and learning and being open to that experience and being open to wrong. It's gonna be uncomfortable, of course it is, but you can grow with that. And that's the important thing, that people aren't looking, like Simone said, like people aren't looking for perfect allies. They're looking for you to want to grow and want to learn. It's not someone else's job to teach you. You need to teach yourself. And that is a long and arduous journey, and it's going to take time. But I think, Simone, for both of us, because we're both in a horribly weak financial position right now, what we'll do is, because I don't know about you, but I feel really shitty about not being able to donate to anywhere. But that being said, there are a huge amount of links that you can go to, such as like YouTube videos and things, that all proceeds go to Black Lives Matter, activists and charities and things like that. So what we'll do in the footnotes for this episode is we will link off to all of these sort of ways that you can support free for any BLM and transgender causes. So that way, you know, even if you can't pay, you can feel part of
maybe
it.
Also activist accounts that you can follow, learn from, good resources to start with. It's a very intimidating journey. And it doesn't have to be.
No, guys, it's all about, you know, not tolerance, but like acceptance and growing with people. And it's going to be a tough journey, but I think we can all do this. We're strong, we're adults, and this is a great generation for us.
There's definitely a certain freedom in admitting that you don't know as much as you thought. And just saying, well, maybe I am wrong, what was I wrong about, and looking at it from that approach. It doesn't have to be a bad thing that you were wrong. It can just be a good thing that you've realized it. And to approach it from that mindset, like I said, can be really freeing, and ultimately really good for you. And at worst, even if you learn everything and you don't agree, you've got a whole extra point of view that maybe you didn't have before.
Exactly. And that's also a really good point to make, is the fact that you don't have to agree with everything that's going on. It's your opinion. Like, obviously with some things there are facts and then there are lies. But as long as you educate yourself on the facts, like, you should come to a good conclusion about that. But yeah, if you don't agree with everything, that's okay, but at least be justified in your opinion. Don't just be like,
to learning,
oh, this is my stance. And open to learning. Like, don't be like so many thin-haired presidential people who just have their opinions and treat that as fact. Be open to the idea that, hey, you could be wrong, and learn about it. Be partisan. Don't be, divisive on this. There's no point in that. You shut yourself off. You're not a hermit crab. You are more like a whale with an ocean to swim in of knowledge.
Yes.
Use it. Swim in that knowledge. So Simone, what are we gonna do next week?
So next week we're gonna do ill-advised sequels. Or maybe sequels that nobody asked for.
Yeah, sort of like 2020, when it just, the hits keep rolling. Man.
Things keep rolling and we did not ask for them. So we will be doing American Psycho 2, All American Girl. And Maleficent 2, Mistress of Evil.
Very exciting times. 2 badass, powerful women doing naughty shit, and we'll find a way to spin something good out of it. I'm sure we will, right? That's kind of our job, sort of, that we're very bad at, I guess. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate this, and we hope that during these very difficult times we can bring a little bit of levity. Understand that very much like the Facts of Life theme tune says, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. And we hope that we can be the good to that bad that's going on, to provide you with the facts of life. So if you feel like we are very much like the show Facts of Life, why don't you tell us, and where can the people talk to us, Simone?
They can talk to us on Facebook or Instagram at Fresh Tomatoes Podcast. They can talk to us on Twitter at Fresh Tomatoes MP. They can email us at freshtomatoospodcast@gmail.com. And guys, we were finally able to get video for this recording, so you can go on over to YouTube and watch it.
Yes, see our beautiful faces. See how the arduous isolation period has caused us to age, even though Simone looks as perfect as always.
My roots are like a fucking mile long.
They're no longer roots. That's just your hair.
Yeah, that's just my hair.
And guys, while you're on the internet looking at how pretty Simone is, why not leave us a rating? Why not leave us a review? Why not share us with your friends? Say, hey, I found this really awesome podcast where they talk about awesome movies that are, crap, and they say cool things about them, I guess, sometimes. And as we say at the end of every episode, we love you and there's nothing you can do about it.
We love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Bye.
Goodbye.